Our morning image, this Satan image transporting Jesus to the mountaintop, it seems they're looking at everything under the sun today. And one person summarized this metaphor of temptation with these words: Satan doesn't come on the premise of tempting us to sin, but on the premise of shifting our point of view. Temptation comes to rob us of our spiritual nature. A couple of weeks ago, I stood at a lectern at Parkview Terrace. I didn't bring in the sermon from the car, though I was preaching there, because after I preach a sermon, I find it sometimes good for the mind to just leave it behind and go and see what I can remember. And as we were singing Sweet Hour of Prayer, I was kind of singing that by memory as well, and we got into the third verse, and I thought, my memory's getting really bad, because they were singing one set of words, and I was singing another set of words. They were singing a different third verse. They were singing the third verse that is often the fourth verse. They were singing the verse that's left out of the United Methodist hymnal. And I'm not quite sure why it's left out of the United Methodist hymnal. It just is. But this last verse refers to Mount Pisgah. Sounds like a place. Pisgah simply means the summit. This fourth verse is the verse that leads the singer to a summit. The verse isn't in our hymnal, as I said, but if you go south, this Mount Pisgah thing is no small matter. There's Mount Pisgah National Forest. There's Pisgah State Park, there's Mount Pisgah Arboretum, there's Mount Pisgah United Methodist Church, Mount Pisgah Baptist Church, Mount Pisgah Presbyterian Church. There's Mount Pisgah schools and roadways. In Scripture, Moses climbed Mount Pisgah, or climbed the summit, and he looked out over the promised land. The land that he would never be able to reach, but the land that he had led his people to. The land that he had sacrificed his life for. And as his life was fading, he was able to look out on what he had done for others. This fourth verse is really a priority verse. I call it a reminder verse. Sweet hour of prayer, sweet hour of prayer. May I thy consolation share, till from Mount Pisgah's lofty height I view my home and take my flight. This robe of flesh I'll drop and rise to seize the everlasting prize, and shout while passing through the air, farewell. Sweet hour of prayer. Yesterday we had this service of death and resurrection for Joan Osley. Tomorrow we have a service for Betty Jensen. And we can't help but feel a sense of loss, even as the whole community, when we lose people and when it happens so close together. And we can't help but remember that one of the most important things we do as a community of faith is provide the signs of hope and care in times of loss and struggle. People, in my mind, who deserve the gold medals are people like John. He came up with this wonderful idea, and I share it because it's something for all of us to keep in mind. When Joan was in hospice, he simply said to all the friends in Arizona, come see Joan if you want. You're invited for 5 minutes. So you don't have to think a whole lot of things to say, and so she doesn't get worn out, but come for 5. And they came. And they just shared that they were caring for her and surrounded her with a community of love. The people who deserve gold medals, in my mind, are the people like Barb and her family, who have been caring for Betty, and Barb's been over at Betty's house 24/7, except for about 2 hours to go home and pay bills on one particular day. And they would sing Barb to sleep with familiar hymns and say the Lord's Prayer each night as the day ended, so that Betty would know she was going from the arms of love into the arms of love. The people who deserve the gold medals to me are people like high school student I read about this last week, Michael Stewart. Michael Stewart is a top Minnesota wrestler in high school. Excellent. And he was facing one of his nemesis, another young man by the name of Mitchell McKee. And they were both driven, and they were both there to wrestle hard, and they were going for the first place in the state for that particular year. This particular year. And it just turned out that this time Mitchell won. Mitchell was wrestling a little bit differently this year. He was wrestling knowing that his father in the bleachers, that every time he wrestled, it might be the last time his father would be there. Because his father's cancer had metastasized, and his father was given 2 months to live. And so every time he wrestled and his father was there, he was wrestling, just, this one's for you, Dad. And he did win the state championship in his weight class. Michael lost. And what Michael did after losing was get up and walk over and give Mitchell's dad a hug. And Mitchell simply said this: it was a big match for Michael. And for him to be able to hug my dad like that and not be mad and storm off like a lot of kids do was really respectful. It turned out Michael had lost his dad to a heart attack many years earlier. And so he knew what it was like to lose a dad. Life is about showing that we treasure more than anything else the relationships we've been given and the people that we've been given to share this life with. It's not about winning or losing, it's about hanging on to our souls and hanging on to the things that truly matter. Jesus is lifted up to this summit, and he looks out over everything on the earth. And he doesn't give in to the temptation to let go of soul, to let go of the purpose that he felt called to. It's time to reclaim that fourth verse of Sweet Hour of Prayer. Time to seize the everlasting prize, to remind one another with small acts of kindness, that small acts of kindness really do matter. To reassure those struggling through the worst that they aren't alone in the struggle, and that they're still worthy of love. To remember that there's another life to come. To restate the hope of Christ's life and death and resurrection in every chance we get. To reprioritize our lives based on that fourth verse of Sweet Hour of Prayer. To reclaim what truly matters. And I invite you to do that as you listen to the words again as the choir sings.